It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmic Voice. Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Voice. This is Season 4, Episode 17. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
What is up, everybody?
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris, how are you, sir?
I am doing wonderful, brother. Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. You sound much better, especially with our last two episodes. A little groggy.
A little rough, man. A little rough. I have a very, very little cough, but not as bad as it has been. I'm kind of getting my voice back, as you can tell, so I feel a lot better getting there. Not 100%. But I am pushing 97, 98%.
You sound good. You look good. And like they said, it's better to look good than to feel good.
That is true, brother. That is true, right? What David Lee Roth used to say. The only reason there was a rear view mirror in a car was to see how good you looked.
Apparently. But being my height, the rear view mirror was always a little difficult to, by the time I adjusted it so I could see myself, I couldn't see out the back anymore. So I'm not sure if safety counts as that as well. Do I give up safety to look good? Well, I guess some people do. I mean, you see some of them high heels that women wear. There is definitely a non-safe element a part of that. But what do you got going on? Anything going on with you?
No, brother. No, man. We're getting into, again, where I know we talked about in the last episode, we're getting into the warmer weather. Summer literally is around the corner. I'm excited. Can't wait to get to a couple beach days. Yeah, man, just loving it. I just saw technically our first summer concert outside. The weather was phenomenal, which kind of us seeing this show this past weekend, it fits right into the show we're doing tonight. So it was killer. It was outside. It was gorgeous. You couldn't ask for a better night. The venue was amazing. It was just a perfect outside summer concert. We're in that summer concert time, and I'm excited. Yeah, man, that's it, bro. Got to, just staying busy, working, still doing things. And that's it, brother. That's it. Just moving forward, right? Like we always say, we just keep moving forward, staying busy, keeping our minds active, just moving on, baby, just moving on. But like I said, I'm excited because we're moving in the summer, so that makes me happy.
Absolutely. You keep moving forward until you hit something, and then you kind of move around it, or it hits you. It depends on how you look at it. Do you hit it, or does it hit you? You know what I mean? I guess it depends on what kind of guy you are. You either hit it or it hits you.
That's right. Another David Lee Rothism, right? The light at the end of the tunnel is the front of an oncoming train.
Yeah, apparently. Boy, I guess we could have some kind of rebuttal every time with the David Lee Roth quotes. So, hey, it works. Whatever. I get it. Totally get it. Totally get it.
How about you, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I mean, I'm hanging in there, and we're moving together with the show. I mean, like, we're into episode 17. I mean, we're coming close to the end of the season. We got our special Christmas in July season planned. It's coming up.
I can't wait.
Very excited for that. Listen, again, like, just talking about the show, I mean, here we are. We're getting close to the end of season 4. I just can't believe it. One, that we're into a season 4, and 2, we're just about to complete it. I mean, we're already talking about season 5 and things like that. And this has been a stellar season in terms of listenership, I guess you would call it. And, we have those audio videos, which are, I guess there's a video ship as well, so to speak. I mean, I'm baffled when I see the numbers. And the other day, then I just sent you a message regarding, I said, just so that you're aware, because I want to make sure that someone else is aware, just other than myself, that I'm not making it up. It's like, wow, our numbers have gone up. I'm hoping that it's starting to really take shape with people, right? Like there's a connection really starting to be able to happen, and that we're hitting some topics that are meaningful to artists and bands. Because again, we usually pick topics that are kind of relevant to us in a way. Like, how are they affecting us? We're involved in them, or we have a lot of experience with them, or, something to that nature. it's always cool when someone else can share in that experience because they have similar experiences. So I'm learning so much from this, you know, from the audience and from the research that we do and from you and I just kind of like, you know, yakking it out. And it's really cool, man. It's constantly evolving. I know we said that in our 100th episode that we're still evolving, and it still seems so new while we're in season 4, in a sense. There's that weird thing to it. It's like, wow, I'm still doing this. It seems like it's been a long time, but at the same time, it's like, wow, it's like new almost every time we hit the mic.
Yeah, man. I think the one thing I enjoy, obviously, spending time with you and doing the show, is doing the show to me is fantastic. Like, I love doing the show. I enjoy it. I think the one thing I really like doing is like being able to talk stuff out, right? Because, you and I have been doing this for so long. We only get to share this information with people in our immediate circle. So, right. By doing this show, you're kind of expanding that to maybe people that don't really know who we are on a personal level. They just know us from, two voices, coming through their speakers. I think that's really cool. We get to share our experiences and even our opinions. And we're very fair with our opinions. You and I talked about in the very beginning how we wanted to keep it, we didn't want to be constant nagging and down. We wanted to keep it kind of up and positive, but also talk about the downside of things too. And that's the one thing I'm really proud of, because again, I do listen to a lot of podcasts and there are a lot of negative ones out there. So it's nice that you and I are, we're not only spreading information, but we're doing it in a positive way and teaching people at the same time.
You're absolutely right. I do think that it's a commonality that anytime we as a people are relaying information, there can be negativity to it, right? Because we put a lot of that into that experience, right? A lot of times we'll spend more time relaying something negative that happened to them than they will something positive. Or short-lived because of the way others often receive it. Like, oh, what's this guy boasting? Or what's he being cocky?
Right.
The old saying, misery loves company. And in a sense, that's kind of true, because you'll see people jump on. You look at posts and you put something positive out and it's maybe one or two, or, but you get something negative and everybody's on board.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's on. Yeah. Then it's a sounding board for their story,
Yeah.
And again, some people may need to do that. And then some people, it's like that mob mentality. It's like, well, everybody else is doing it, let's do it. And I'll grab a TV at the same time. Like you had said, we had decided early on that, we're going to talk about some of this stuff. And we're going to make it known. We're going to play both sides. But at the end, we try to give some kind of spin or encouragement. Because, again, we've been doing this, and you can look at that any way you want. It's like we're still doing it 30, 35 years. And the goal is to keep going. And you can't do something like that if all you do is focus on the negative. Is the negative there? Absolutely. Sometimes it outweighs all that positive, especially in this business. But whatever it is that's keeping you going, that passion, that drive, the excitement. Like I said, every time we hit the mic, though we've done this before, it's like the first time. It's the same when you're playing. You hit the stage and it's like, I've done this before. I've done this 100 times. I got some of the same moves at the same points of songs. I do the same thing. Yep. Whatever. But then again, it's not. It's brand new. It's just the way it is. So I like how we spin that and we give people, it's like, hey, listen, if we can do it, and on my end, now you're the bigger rock star between the two of us, but on my end, I mean, I haven't made much money. If anything, I've lost more money in this business. And, whatever the case may be, but I'm still going and I find ways around that. I get inspired even when push comes to shove and I've been shoved and pushed down. You find ways around it, above it, through it. Like you said, you're either going to hit it or it's going to hit you. One way or the other, you're going to meet this head on. And that's kind of what I'm hoping that this show continues to do. And the numbers this season have kind of shown to me that maybe we've hit a chord with some people. And if the audience is small and it stays small, that's fine. Because like you had said when we first started this, and you've said this to me years ago, anything that we do as artists, it's about one fan at a time, one listener at a time. And we're doing the same thing here. I'm more than content with that. Because I'm proud of what we do. I'm not ashamed or embarrassed of it. I could put this up against the big boys, in my opinion.
100%. 100%. And we've done it clean. We are kind of like a PG-rated show.
That's right. We don't work in the blue.
We don't. Surprising because of our language.
Off air. Yes, I know. Now, I could take this one. Mine's more than yours, but you know what I mean? You may be the bigger star between the two, but my sailor mouth definitely takes yours to the cleaners. So I don't know if they give out any prizes for that, but if they do, please put us in for that running.
There you go. There you go. That would be amazing.
It's Russ the Boss.
Take it down.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
All right, let's get to the topic. So tonight we are talking about how old is too old to be relevant for an audience to enjoy an artist or a band. Aging artists, are you too old to play? So, how old is too old to be relevant for an audience of any age? And aging artists, ask yourself, because I ask myself this every day, am I too old to play? Are you too old to play? Chris, what do you think, buddy?
Man, here is my thinking on this. And because I've always said this, I will do this until I physically cannot, whether it be body, whether it be voice, or, whatever the case may be. It's a catch-22, right? Because you see these aging artists, and some of them don't sound good at all, but people are still going. And people complain because they don't sound good. Then you get these aging artists that playing, people are buying tickets. They sound good because they're singing to a tape, but people complain. And then you have your handful of artists, because I literally just seen Sammy Hagar and The Circle a couple nights ago. And Sammy Hagar is about to be 75. Now, to be fair, it was only the second night on tour, so could be a couple reasons for this, but they did down-tune a little bit, not much, but a little bit, and the songs are a little slower paced. Now, they could maybe pick up as the tour goes on because they're kind of getting their groove back. I don't know. That's not for me to say, but some of the songs were a little slower. But at 74 years old, Hagar sounds unbelievable, and you can listen to The Circle's latest album that they recorded during COVID, and it's like 2 or 3 minutes of a bunch of cover songs that Sammy sang in his living room and outside and in his bathroom, because they were doing these little sessions at their own homes, and they were doing little bits and pieces of cover songs, and I guess it just was so good that they decided to put a record out. So you could hear Sammy Hagar like singing in his bathroom, and he sounds unbelievable. As far as I noticed, they didn't sound like they were singing to a tape. Everything was live, as far as I know, because Sammy Hagar flubbed a couple of vocal lines, missed a spot. They were doing Can't Drive 55, and he came in late on one of the verses. And
was he doing something else? Like, was he?
Nope,
no?
Okay.
No, he fell asleep. Well, listen, it's 75.
Well, he said earlier in the night, again, I don't have the truth, but he said earlier in the night they don't rehearse, which really, these guys have been playing the same songs for, let's face it, a number of years, right? So they should. But he said, in the dressing room, I guess they warm up and they'll jam some songs out. I don't know. They just started the song, and he was playing guitar, and you can kind of see him like, I'm not really sure where I am. Like, just completely forgot his spot, and then just came in late, and they were laughing and having a great time. So the reason I'm saying that is because
they could have been making fun of Kiss.
Well, listen. Kingdom Come took the heat off of Kiss this
week,
my
God. Well, we'll talk about that too.
I'm not really sure. I guess I don't really have a final answer, right? Because you could look at it a number of different ways. You could look at it as Kiss being aging guys, knowing Paul's voice is going, and they're singing to a tape, or, backing tracks, whatever you want to call it, and people complaining. But then you got guys like Don Dokken who don't sing to a backing track, who does not sound that great, but people still pay to see him. So where does that answer? Where does that answer lie of when is too old? As long as you're selling now, I could tell you, and I'm going to use Sammy Hagar because I just recently saw him, and it works into the subject. He's not selling the tickets like he used to. You can look on YouTube, and from, handful of years ago, right after he left Van Halen, and there's a live DVD, and it's from St. Louis, and the place is packed. This being a Saturday night in New Jersey, it was a great crowd, and because it was him and George Thorogood. George Thorogood opened. It was a great crowd, but it wasn't packed. Now, that could be a number of reasons. Could be because of COVID. Could be because and the tickets were cheap. They weren't expensive. It could be because it's summertime. There could be a lot of reasons. I don't know what the rest of the tour is people-wise, but, obviously it's not, the shows aren't drawing as much as he used to, which, whatever. It's not like they need the money. They're doing it to do it, right? To still stay on stage and do what they do. And have fun. And so I don't know, man. I don't know what that answer is, because some guys sound really bad, some guys sound really good. But when you're a guy like Don Dokken, should you stop? I mean, unless nobody's telling you, I can't imagine that. And listen, I love Dokken. I love Dokken back in the day. I feel really bad when I hear his vocals, and just how mundane they are. And Bon Jovi, right? Like, there's this videos that just came out, a few weeks back of Bon Jovi. I don't know if he's having vocal issues or if he's just losing his range because he is an older guy. And same thing, right? Like, I'm not the biggest Jovi fan, but obviously he was a big part of our lives growing up, and he wrote, obviously has great songs and great songwriter and a decent singer. His voice was always kind of unique, but he's still selling tickets. So at what point do they go, listen, I'm not doing this anymore? I don't know. I don't know what that answer is. I don't even know if there is an answer. Or do you literally just keep doing it until you just can't do it? As long as people are buying tickets, do you keep doing it? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, are you giving people a bad show? I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if that's for me to say.
Well, here's the thing. There's two parts to this, right? The first one is, how old is too old to be relevant to an audience? You could break that up into a couple different ways. Like, an aging band, are they relevant to an 18-year-old, 22-year-old audience? Then the second part of the question is, aging artists, are you too old to play? Well, listen, the long and the short of that is, you play as long as you want to play, right? No one can tell you when to stop, and
right.
So whether that means you're at the top of the game, like you're at the top end of the industry, or you're at the bottom rung of the industry. Because I'm at the bottom of the rung, and I often see a lot of bands that I play with are even older than I am.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And sometimes even older than you would expect to see people out in the scene.
Yeah.
I mean, people in their 60s and their 70s. That's not that uncommon in the regular local and regional scenes, right?
Right.
If you remember, they were having the same thing back in the late 90s, early 2000s with bands like Aerosmith. And, while every time the Rolling Stones come around, they say the same thing. Even then, Kiss was considered an aging band. In their farewell tour and all that kind of stuff. When is too old type of thing. But the long and the short of that is, no matter what age, you can continue playing. You can continue performing. You can continue writing. Whatever. That doesn't even have to say you have to play well. If you just want to play, you play. You want to play out, you do that. That's the way that is. However, sometimes aging, maybe not in years, but in the quality that you're giving, like it's just like you're talking about, there's certain people out there maybe not capable of giving what they once did. To me, I do have an issue with that because it's deteriorating. It's ruining whatever it is that the fans have that connection to. It's kind of like it bums them out. There are, and I'm not going to name any artists that I've seen. I mean, there's artists that like I went to go see, and I was thoroughly bummed out. I didn't expect it to be as bad as it was. Yeah. Sloppy playing, so much downtime. It just seemed like it was, even the backup band, like they're standing around, they're waiting. Vocal performance not that great. I understand. Listen, I'm not always at 100%, but I've learned that my 100% and what 100% of a show is maybe two different things. Like what the audience looks at as 100% is one thing. What you look at as 100% may be something else, right? But in between there is like a plus and minus scale. But if it starts falling down where the audience is feeling that it isn't 100%, because sometimes we can't live up to our own expectations. We've had shows, and this is my personal piece, where I've come off the stage and I go, man, I just didn't feel good playing. I wasn't in the, and people are like, oh my God, it was great. You did this, you're talking to people, and I'm like saying to myself, man, that's not how I heard it. Right. So, because they're looking at it differently, so you're giving them something. And like I said, most artists have a difficult time living up to their own expectations. Some of these artists, they can't get out of their head, or their ego won't allow them to say, listen, I have to stop this because I am so-and-so from so-and-so, and I did this at one time. Yeah. And like you're saying, if they're still selling tickets, they're bankable. But there are artists, and there are bands that aren't selling tickets, and they couldn't do it on their own, so they get put into a package deal. They're lumped in with all the bands that maybe are pooling in, and they're just kind of like filler bands. Example, and always been a fan of Kingdom Come, at least in the early days. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I didn't follow them much throughout the 90s, but they didn't really have much happening here in the States to begin with. However, solid band. Well, after the performance that, is online right now, and they're blaming it on a bunch of different things, some addictions or not being prepared or whatever, and they're celebrating an anniversary and they're at a big festival. I was kind of like, there was an embarrassment as I'm watching it, and there was a cringe thing, and I'm saying to myself, how are the other musicians handling it? I mean, again, it would just be so embarrassing to me. If it's embarrassing to me, and I'm watching it, and I don't know any of them personally, but I feel embarrassed. How would you feel as the artist, right? I mean, there was timing issues. There was just performance issues. There was some bass solo thing that took place, which, I'm sorry, I love the bass. And I've heard some fantastic stuff. I mean, the guy from Cheap Trick with the 12-string bass, and, it's some amazing things. Les Claypool, you go, Geddy Lee. We can keep going on and on and on.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't play bass. And I think I could have done a slightly better job.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, was that filler? Was that on the spot type of thing? Why didn't one of the guitar players do something? I mean, somebody says, in the comments, in the one thing, like, tuning is overrated anyway. And listen, and I know that happens at times, you get knocked out of tune, somebody touches your headstock or the lights or whatever, you're hitting too hard. But, you got to make the best effort. And I was just like, maybe they shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
Like if they don't have the spark. Because all you're doing is you're taking money unfairly, unjustly. It's about what you give to the fans, right? And if you're just kind of schlocking through things, I don't know, man. I mean, so, like I said, there's two parts to this question. And I can go on about the first part of the question because, believe it or not, I have this conversation quite often with James, my bass player. Because of the age that we are, the type of music, it's such a niche style that, and I've said this before, that we often struggle to find a younger audience because it's not as relevant to them, our sound, our style. Because of having such a specialized sound, a throwback sound, I mean, literally, our audience demographic is literally dying out. Like with each year, there's less and less because they're, literally dying out. And statistically, most people make their connections in music prior to 30. The music that you'll stick with the rest of your life. That doesn't mean you can't add music, but I'm just saying that primary core is stuff you made early on. Now, I recently read an article that said that's because the music is funneled to you by the industry for that group. So, especially in our age, during the 80s, we were kind of almost forced what to like. I don't necessarily agree with all of that, but I could see that a higher percentage would be true, yes.
It's probably even more now.
Yeah, being that I don't follow the mainstream pop trends, and again, because there's the age, right? So I'm not following 20-year-old bands, teenage bands. Why would I expect then, or assume that a 25-year-old audience would follow a 50-some-year-old throwback band, original throwback band in metal? When are you too old to be relevant to an audience? Well, if you're going for the wrong audience, there is a point, because younger people do, unless you're a big, unless you're Metallica or something like that, local, regional, without much of a, and you're just trying to, in the scene, doing the best you can to trench, it's tough to find that audience, especially for metal, because they may not be there. For our kind of metal.
Yeah. And that's hard, man. Like I had said in the beginning, I think that relevance as they get older, I guess you always have that guys our age bring our kids to see the bands that we grew up with. And there is a age of kids that go backwards, right? Like they listen to the stuff we used to listen to, that retro, because some of it's cool now, to be retro. That to me is hard, because it could be hard because some of the artists that probably are not, or maybe leaving that relevance era, are bands that I'm stuck to. Like, I have a connection to, so maybe it's a little hard for me to say, listen, your time may be over. You guys are playing to clubs of, 100 people, and, you're just not that those people I'm still attached to, because I'm connected to them. So, maybe that's hard for me to say, but just comes with the times, man. I think that people they get cycled out. It's just kind of how it is. Obviously you have your bigger name bands that probably won't cycle out quicker than some. But yeah, that's hard. That's really hard because I hate to say that the bands I enjoy that are kind of on their way out aren't relevant, but I understand the reality of the situation.
So they're relevant to you as a long-time fan, right?
Yes.
As Andy Warhol said, everybody has that 15 minutes of fame. So they had that 15 minutes of genre relevance. And those bands that had that are the ones that are still kind of holding on today. I mean, the Kiss, the Bon Jovi, bands that aren't even playing, like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. They have tribute bands in the hundreds, numbered in the hundreds, and people doing cover inclusions in their set. So they're not touring anymore. They're not recording anymore. They're not, you can't go see them or whatever the case may be. But their relevance is still pretty on point.
Yeah.
Even with that mess up with Kiss recently, by the time this airs, it'll be, weeks past. There's people still going to see them. And some people noticed it that night. Some people didn't. I mean, now everybody notices because it's videoed, right? And you can watch it over and over again.
Now you're looking for it, too.
And there's people that don't seem to care. And really, I thought I heard with the backing track was so low-keyed, when Stanley came up to the mic to that last word, it was primarily him. So how much is he doing? How much is he not doing? What's assisting him and all? Listen, it's like, is wrestling real or not? Right? Well, it's come on, right? It's a matter of how much does it bother you?
Right.
Right? He is singing at times, and you can hear him struggle, and and like I said, I'd rather not have him struggle. It's like Disneyland, Disney World. You're buying it. That mouse ain't real.
Yeah.
But you're buying it. You're buying it, Chef Mickey. You can't beat that. Right? That's a shout out to our friend who's always in Disney 24/7. You know who we're talking about. Baffles my bass player. He goes, doesn't he have a job? He's always at Disney. I go, well, man, he must got stock in it. I don't know.
You are listening to The Cosmic Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
And this is the thing, too, like, you and I have said this before, and we've even talked about this off air. It's almost like, sometimes you see these bands from back in our day, and I had even mentioned it, on a show that aired pretty recently. We were going to see, me and my wife were going to see Leonard Skinner, and I had made the comment that I'm not even sure if there's any original guy. Like, I don't even know who's an original. And I don't know how many people really care. You know what I mean? And the same thing with like what you said about Kiss, and people just want to buy into that, right? They want to see the fire. They want to see four guys in makeup. They want to hear Rock and Roll All Night, Detroit Rock City. And, they don't really care that the show is helped by a backing track. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really think and if I'm bringing my kids, I'm sure my kids sure is, they're not going to care. Obviously, if I had kids, but you know what I mean? Like, because they're just like you said, they're just buying into it. They're buying the spectacle that is
we
Kiss.
Go to magic shows. We go to Cirque du Soleil. They're all assisted shows, and I don't mean that they're wheelchair accessible, which they are, but I mean they're assisted shows. You go to a magic show, you see David Copperfield or whatever, it ain't real, but you're still amazed at it. It's fake. To some degree, it's entertainment. Listen, the exciting thing about like Kiss is because of the explosions, the big stage hit, and I think the bonus is there's two original members, right? Yeah. There's two original members, and you're sharing that journey with them. Now, look, Simmons does most of his stuff live, and Stanley does some of it as well, like not all of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know what it is, 80-20, 70-30, 50-50. Yeah. I don't know, but he's still up there playing, dancing. Always there may be backing tracks to the guitars. Listen, a lot of guys do that. Some guys pay other musicians to play off stage, or there's a backup track of guitar because somebody wants to dance around, get involved with the whatever, man. my band doesn't use backing tracks. We don't have any. I mean, actually, to me, it's too complicated when you only got 4 guys. You're the road crew and everybody else. I don't have time for that. Yeah. I mean, my singer wants us to have an opening with some music. I said, well, who's going to set that up? Me? Like, I mean, I don't have time for that. You know what I mean? We don't have a road crew. This ain't the 87.
One more thing we got to. One more thing you got to carry.
Yeah, one more thing I'm trying to carry less. You know what I mean? So, but honestly, like, you know, people get all upset about this, but at the same time, you go to other things knowing that it's not all complete. It's the entertainment world. Entertainment is to entertain you. Like, if you want a bad show, there's plenty of places you can go and you just get a bad show. If it's a bad show, they complain. It's a big surprise that they're using backing tracks and they want their money back. Well, it's like, come on. I mean, where you been the last 2.5 years, you know, since 2019? Were you not listening to any new... I mean, if you're a Kiss fan, you're aware of the controversy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, don't ask, don't tell. That's where they're at. Actually, people ask, but they still don't tell. So it doesn't make a difference. It hasn't stopped them. Going back to the question, here's another way of looking at it. Let's look at it from the artist's perspective. What's relevant? To them, relevance could be, hey, listen, I just need to play. This is part of what I do. Or, hey, I got to continue doing this because this is my only means of income. So if I'm not pulling numbers like I once was, I need to associate myself with places or with other acts that do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that Kingdom Come had high hopes for whatever when they signed on to this. Because, again, this was supposed to be something that they did prior to the pandemic, right? I think that was what I read. This reunion type of celebration or anniversary tour was something that started to happen before. But then, you know, things got shut down. So here they are doing whatever it is they're doing. And it's either they never prepared for it, or they are truly dealing with somebody with, not to call out anybody or whatever, but it's been documented that the drummer had been let go, you know, in previous bands for issues. And he was kind of like a meltdown there on stage. They're pretty much saying that he just was incoherent to being able to play. Oof. So that should have been something. I know sometimes the show must go on, but then at the same time there has to be some kind of quality system in place, some checkpoint system. We talked about that. It's like, hey, you know what? We may not be ready to do this. And you have to weigh it out. Like, and I know for this industry, no press is really bad press. You know, like when Marilyn Manson was up on all those charges last year, his catalog went out the roof.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yep. You know, and I'm not saying that if he is guilty, we shouldn't be supporting that kind of thing. But at the same time, you know, that's just the kind of the way things work. Everybody loves a train wreck.
Yeah.
Like I said, in this business, they've always said any press is good press. Bad press is even better press.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes a lot of celebrity artists, whatever you want to call them, have created their own propaganda, their own type of, you know, whatever, just to get into the media so they can have something that people can kind of focus on. So, but I mean, if you look at it like that, some of these artists, like, you know, maybe they should have cut it short like a long time ago. But at the same time, if this is all they've done, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
They, you know, in their mind, they're like, I'm still this person, but in reality, they may not be. Yeah. I've done interviews with different artists, and, you know, we've kind of talked about, like, you know, holding on to the past. There's those artists that keep their relevance. They don't step out of the past because they'll lose their audience, right? They don't bother with new music. They don't want to change. So they'll keep playing the same 5 songs, or they'll play 40 minutes of no-name hits that were on their albums that nobody listened to, and then the last song, everybody's like, yeah, that's the one we're waiting to hear, right? So there's that draw. And then there's other artists that don't want to stay in the past. They want to stay relevant to the maturation of their craft and their art, right?
Right.
They're constantly working on new material. They don't want to be pigeonholed, even though, unfortunately, they are. You know, I mean, when I talked to the guitarist from the Suite, I mean, that was one of the questions. Like, how do you feel that? Like, do you feel that you're kind of cornered into those songs? And he goes, well, to some degree, yeah. I'm paraphrasing now, but, you know, to some degree, yeah, because that's what they want to hear. But at the same time, a lot of these artists have decided, well, they're going to spoon feed some of the new material in there. They're going to pepper it in. And you talked about it too. You said it. You've been at shows where the new material comes on, and that's when some of the fans decide to go to the bathroom, go get another beer, get a pack of peanuts, or get the cotton candy guy, chase him down, whatever.
Pee break.
Pee break. But you do have artists that look at it like, well, if I'm going to stay relevant, and I'm going to work that whole niche, whether it's the hair metal, whether it's the the 80s or whatever. That's all we're going to do. We're not going to get into worrying about new material.
Right.
Right. I mean, I guess relevance is relevant to the person and or the audience. I do think that there is more of an under the 30-year age demographic that gravitates towards younger bands. It's a lot of times that major change in most individuals, because I remember quite clearly, is when you made that change to 30, a lot of perspective started to change. Especially if you were already on your own, or you were married, you had a full-time job, you had tons of bills to pay. All of a sudden, things start changing for you. You're starting to see things differently. You've been already a couple of years paying taxes. You're like, well, where's it all going? Because it ain't going where I thought it was going to go. Like we talked about in another episode, the older you get, the music may not have the same impact as it once did, right? Because a lot of times music's written for that generational perspective, right? That we're going to fist in the air. And it's kind of weird. Some of the metal bands that are singing these songs, Youth Gone Wild, and these guys are pushing retirement age. You know what I mean? Like, all right, I'm not sure I want you guys running into the building with me, because you may get hurt. I may get hurt. I'm positive I'm going to be the first. How about if I send the young guy in first, then he signals me and says, yeah, the elevator's clear.
It's safe.
It's safe. Come on in. Then you start, then let me carry the flag. The light one, the small one, them little ones that they have at the side of parades. I'll carry that flag. That heavy one, no, I'm not. Leave that here. Leave that on the truck. So, I don't know, man. That's us being, middle-aged artists, middle-aged performers.
Yeah.
And, some people won't talk about this. If you think you're old, then you're too old to, that saying kind of thing. I get that. Yeah. All right. And that's a little easier for a guy that has millions of dollars already in the bank, hasn't actually gone to a 9 to 5 or a 6:30 in the morning to a 7 o'clock at night job with a shovel and, and all. I get that. I understand it. It's a different perspective. But if you're passionate about it and it provides you something, then you're never too old.
That's right.
Grandma Moses, when she started painting, when she was 80-something?
Yeah.
So, you can do whatever you want to do. And not to say that you cannot be a success at it. Sir Christopher Lee, he's he's not releasing anything anymore, but he was releasing metal albums late in life.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
So, again, whatever it is, but you could do whatever you want to do. But you do have to come to some realization, and I just recently spoke to another artist, and I'm not going to name any names, but there is a realization that, listen, you may never be a rock star, and may never make millions, and you may not be a household name, but are you really doing it for that? Like, if you're doing it for that, you might as well go do something else. But if you're doing it to continue to create and experience, and in some capacity, like you and I do, share it, because we get something out of it. There's something that you get out of it. Well, then there is relevance. Even if that audience is just you, well, then to me, that it's irrelevance, because it comes down to you're pursuing your heart's desire, what makes you feel good, and to hell with the rest. If they like it, they do. That's great. If they don't, well, listen, you're always going to have that. But,
and true.
One of the episodes we just did, we talked about if you feel good about what you do, if it's important to you, then it's important.
That's right.
If it's not important to you, then you should do something else. So my hope is that with a lot of these guys, the aging artists per se, it's still important to them. Jack Russell said to me, he goes, it's almost impossible to stop simply, and I'm paraphrasing again, it's almost impossible to stop because you're always working towards writing that next hit.
Yeah.
And you don't know when it's going to be.
Yeah.
When it's going to come. And in the mind of the artist, you're never too old to do it. Right? You're never too old to do it. So there's something to say about that in terms of the drive and the passion and what it really means and what it does for the individual. It's inspiring and aspiring at the same time, both for the artist and for, other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is some excitement knowing that some of my favorite artists are still doing it. Now, Dee Snider recently said that he probably won't perform anymore. I don't know about that. We've heard, in his back, Twisted Sister hasn't gotten together again. Yeah, I get that. Maybe Twisted Sister may never play again, and maybe Dee Snider will do something in some other capacity. But it's often hard to say whether someone's going to do something or not, because there's, like, Peter Criss, right? He retired, but then he came out to do something with some Australian band, just one show.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's at Creature Fest and doing a couple. Yeah. So, again, right? Because in the artist's mind, and I'm speaking from experience, you always say, I could do that. I could still do it. I still have it in me. Even though you're coming up with a cane and your knees are all wrapped up and you just drop down 4 Aleve, you know what I mean? A couple Alka-Seltzer for whatever you may have afterwards. It's just, you get agita before, during, and after the performance. So it's So that's where we're at, man. What do you think? I mean, you got anything else you want to add to that? Do we have anything else to add? Did we say anything of relevance to the topic?
I don't think so, man. I think we pretty much covered it. I think that, I like yourself, I get excited that, these artists still try to keep going as best they can. I'm not I understand the backing track thing. I'm not crazy about it, but I get it. I think I'd rather see a live performance, whether it be good or bad. You don't want to see, I definitely don't want to see a train wreck. That's for sure. Especially if it's someone that I really, really enjoy, because that's just
right. And on a business transaction level, you don't want to pay for that. That's not what you're there for, right? Because it's entertainment, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Quick addition is that I've been playing the local and regional area for quite a while. I've played with bands that use them. They use them before they come on. They use them during. I've played with numbers of bands that play to a click track. The drummer follows it, has it off to the side. It's going. They're wearing their headphones, and boom. I played with bands that, in a live setting, all the drums are triggered. Drummer comes up, he's playing a real kit, but what's coming through the system is a mixture of, So, listen, as guitar players, we're all using processors of some sort. So it's not like we're not manipulating the sound. Some guys use
the same way.
Yeah, guitar players use loops. Singers use loops.
Yeah,
keyboard
use
players,
reverb, little echo.
Yeah, listen, keyboard players sometimes have, pre-stacked melodies for songs, especially if they're the only keyboard player and, you only have 2 hands, 10 fingers, or actually 4 fingers, 2 thumbs, whatever the case. Besides the new dirty little secret that everybody pays for views and Spotify listens, the old dirty little industry secret was that backing tracks have been used for a long time. What about the singer that just came out and just sang, but there was no band around? Where do you think that music was coming from? Angels from heaven coming down?
Right.
I don't think so. They were playing in front of a backing track. You know what I mean? And a lot of TV shows, those, live variety shows, were not necessarily live, both in this country and other countries. So, it shouldn't be that much of a surprise in those terms. I know we're going off, but, you don't want to pay for something that's horrible. Because if we bought a bad sandwich or got a bad meal, we complain about it. If we bought something, got it home, and it broke, guess what? We return it. We get it replaced. We get a refund. Well, is that what you want your entertainment to be? I don't know.
Although on that note, I am not opposed to guys having bad nights. Maybe the singer's voice is a little shot. Maybe, they mess up a song. Maybe the guitar, you know what I mean? But when it's something that can be controlled, as the Kingdom Come issue, as sad as that is, that's kind of where I'm a little fugazi on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to have a bad night, then have a bad night naturally and either laugh it off, or just keep going. Just go,
Well, I think that's what I mean. Watching the video, I'm positive that's what the singer was doing. He was just moving. I think he was just excited to be out.
That is 1,000% right, and that's the guy you feel bad for because they hired this kid. Yeah. He's the singer of Kingdom Come, and all they're talking about now is this train wreck of a set.
Yeah, and the guitar players, if you watch that video, they stayed pretty far to the back, didn't want to, you know what I mean? The one guitar player on the one side, he kept going up to the drummer to try to keep him in time, but,
Yeah, keep in time,
But it is what it is. So there you have it. If you like that, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmicvoice.com. Step into the Cosmic Verse and fill that void. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
Okay, folks, that will do it for another episode of The Cosmic Voice. Mick and I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.